I could have your attention. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the opening meeting of the Birmingham Tip-Off Club 2023-24 season. It's great to be back in the Harbert Center and great to have this big crowd today and see a lot of familiar faces. So welcome back. We've got several business items that we'll cover first, but let's get started with with Randy Barnes. Randy, if you'd come forward. Randy's a club member and he's going to present our invocation, and after that, if you'll stand, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. But Randy Barnes.
Let's pray together. Father God, we are so thankful for this beautiful day that you've given us, and we're most thankful that we can live another day in your beautiful world. God, I'm thankful for this opportunity to come together as basketball enthusiasts and enjoy this food and this fellowship. God, I thank you for the sport of basketball and what it means to each of us, for the lessons that it teaches our young men and young women and even us. Not only the on-court lessons, but also the life lessons. And God, I'm thankful for this food that we're partaking of, Lord. I pray that you bless it. Thank you for those that have prepared it. We'll give you the praise for it all in your Son's most holy name. Amen. Let's stand together as we do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Randy. I'd like to quickly introduce you to our club officers for the coming year. I'm Dick Coffey. I'm going to be serving as president. Jimmy Carlson, Jimmy, if you'd stand, is our vice president. Treasurer Jim Conrad, right over here. Scotty Colson in the dual position of immediate past president and secretary. And Scotty's over here as well. And then the person that really makes it go, Michelle McIntyre, I believe is up in the booth. She's our executive director. So those are your officers. If you're on the board this year, I think most of the folks are here, but please stand if you're a member of the board of directors. Officers too. So look around, and if you have any comments or suggestions, see one of these folks or me and let us know what you'd like to suggest for our club. But appreciate everybody. Let's give them a hand. We're really excited about our Alabama Power speaker series this year. We haven't released a lot of information. We're still putting it all together, but I think you do know that, or most of you know, that Bruce Pearl is going to be back with us on February 19th, so you want to mark that on your calendar. It's been a few years since Bruce has been here, so that'll be a big day for the club. And then the week after that, February 26th, we have our panel back of the members of the college basketball, men's basketball committee for the NCAA, and that includes Charles McClellan, who is the chair of the committee this year and will actually be answering questions on CBS on Selection Sunday. So Charles will be here. Greg Byrne is in his third year on the committee, and then Martin Newton is in his second year on the committee. I think Martin's going to be here a little bit later, not quite yet, but so that'll be incredible to have those three guys in the same room for the second year in a row, and that'll be on February 26th. Of course, we'll have Andy Kennedy from UAB. We'll have Bucky McMillan from Samford. We're working hard on Nate Oates. I don't know if we can pull that off, but we're trying hard to get him to come as well, and still working on some other programs. But we'll have, those dates are going to start coming together. We were kind of waiting on Bruce Pearl to see when he could come, and then we're going to work the rest of the folks on in as we go along. So we'll let you know about some of those upcoming programs. We're working hard to grow our membership as well. You'll recall in the days, I think Joe Dean was president, we had 300 members at one point. The club took a little break there for a year or two, and we're building it back. We finished last year with 95. Our goal this year is 125. So please spread the word. If you know some friends who love basketball and would want to meet us for lunch on Mondays, let's spread the word and get them here, because we're we're looking for new members. You may have seen we have a junior membership this year. Regular members are $250 for the season. If you're a guest today, we can sign you up right after the meeting. Junior members, 35 and under, that's $175 for the junior membership. So bring your friends and let's continue to grow this club. Before we get too far into the new season, we've got one bit of unfinished business from last year. As I mentioned earlier, most of you know that the Tip-Off Club was dormant there for a year, a little more than a year, and there were a number of us that wanted to get the club going again. But there was one person who really called a group together, prepared an agenda, had a series of productive meetings, came up with the minutes for the meeting, just did a lot of work, provided us with structure, is what I'm trying to say. And that's Scotty Colson. And Scotty, if you'll come up, if you can make it, we want to recognize you today. And as the club got going, obviously we needed a president. Well, Scotty had already been president once, so he came back for a second term, which was twice as long as the first term. But we want to present this to you. It says, in grateful appreciation to Scotty Colson for his inspirational leadership that was instrumental in the rebirth of the Birmingham Tip-Off Club. President 2021 through 2023.
Thank you.
Sure. You say something?
I've been involved in a lot of nonprofits over the years, and this one is truly close to my heart because I really like to have somewhere to go on Monday for lunch. And I always told the joke that in Alabama, liking basketball more than football is the definition of perversion. Well, it's good to be here with a bunch of like-minded people. Thank you so much. And as I told Dick, one of the greatest things in being part of an organization is the year after you're president.
Thank you so much, Scotty. We really appreciate you making it happen. As I said, there were a lot of people interested, but Scotty led the way and made sure this club was back. We have several special guests today I want to introduce. From the SEC office, we have Craig Pinkerton down front. Craig, good to have you. From the University of Alabama Athletic Department, B.J. Stabler, right there. Then we have the brother of the late, great Charles Cleveland, and that's Ray Cleveland, right up front. Ray, if you'd... We also have Johnny Dill, who was a big contributor on that 1973-74 team. We have Joanne Odums, the wife of Raymond Odums. Glad to have you. And I know we have several well-known high school coaches. I believe Houston Kennedy is here. Houston, where are you sitting? Legendary coach. Of course, Mike Dutton, who's a member, is with us again. I don't know if Hal Riddle made it. Is Hal here? There he is. Hal Riddle in the back, great high school football coach. Let's see, did Bill Ivey make it? Great basketball man. Good to see Bill. Welcome back. And what about Scott Myers? Is Scott here for the Hall of Fame? Scott Myers with the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. Great to have you guys here. I'm really excited about this program today. As we honor and recognize a group we're calling the First Five. It's the 50th anniversary, as you know, of the SEC's first all-black starting five. They first came on the court in December of 1973. And as I mentioned, as we saw in our meeting notice, when you think about that, 1973 was not too far removed from some serious racial turmoil and tension, and it's pretty remarkable what happened in 1973. I was thinking about the first time that I visited the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, and I remember the one thing that stuck with me after that. It was probably one of the smallest displays there, but it was the Jim Crow laws. It was just a little, just hanging on the wall, a little frame piece, and it was the Jim Crow laws. And so I looked those up the other day. I hadn't looked at it in a long time, and it's still shocking to me when I read those. But, and I'm going to just bear with me, it's real quick, it's just a paragraph. But this is the Birmingham, Alabama Racial Segregation Ordinances. And this was in the 50s, the 60s through 1964, before the federal government came in with the Civil Rights Act. But listen to this. This is Ordinance 798F, Amendment to Section 597 of the General Code of the City of Birmingham. And people went to great lengths to keep folks separated. It says, title of Section 597, Negroes and White Persons Not to Play Together. Be it ordained by the Commission of the City of Birmingham, it shall be unlawful for a Negro and a white person to play together or in the company of each other in any game of cards, dominoes, checkers, baseball, football, or basketball. Any person who knowingly permits a Negro and a white person to play together or in company with each other in any of these games shall be on conviction punished as provided in Section 4. Now, I didn't go to Section 4 to see what the punishment was, but that was the law right here in Birmingham and throughout the South and really in other parts of the country as well. We always get the bad rap here, but this was all over. And I think about that was during our lifetime, most of us in this room. I think in 1964, I was in elementary school on the east side. Scotty was on the west side. Raymond Odums was in North Birmingham. And this was the law at that time. It's hard to fathom, really. But and then just 9 years after that law was struck down, these guys, 5 young natives of Alabama, all 5, were in the starting lineup for the University of Alabama. So I think when you look back at that, 64 to 73, when you look at the big picture, that's not a lot of time, and it's pretty remarkable what happened. That's pretty significant change in a short time. If you haven't had a chance to talk with these guys, they're great folks. I hope you'll come up and talk with them later. But they were elite athletes. Let me tell you, when you talk about Leon Douglas, All-American at Alabama, the number 4 pick in the first round of the NBA draft, played 6 years with the Pistons, played many years overseas after that. Raymond Odums, one of the greatest athletes to ever come out of Birmingham, 3-year All-SEC player. There are people that will tell you that had he played football, he would have been the greatest wishbone quarterback that Coach Bryant ever had. And as a matter of fact, he did go on and play football after college and played 10 years as a cornerback in the Canadian Football League, which was big-time football at that time. You had quarterbacks like Warren Moon, Condredge Holloway, Dieter Brock, and Raymond was a star cornerback in the NFL. Boonie Russell, one of the first junior college players to sign with Alabama. I talked to Matt Coulter the other day, and he said, in my part of the state, everybody growing up wanted to be Boonie Russell. And Boonie went on to play professionally in Argentina and Chile for 12 years, I think, overseas. T.R. Dunn, who really wanted to be here, he lives in Charlotte and just could not make it happen. But T.R. played 14 years in the NBA. I had forgotten this. I just noticed it this morning. Of course, they play 82 games a year. In a 10-year stretch, that's 820 games. T.R. missed 6 games. So think about that. He played in 814 of 820 games in a 10-year period. Widely recognized as one of the greatest defensive players to ever play the game. You can ask Michael Jordan about that. And then finally, Charles Cleveland. And Charles was also a 3-time All-SEC player at guard. In his spare time, he pitched a one-hitter for the Alabama baseball team, striking out 14 guys in the process. And think about this. Charles Cleveland was drafted by the Kansas City Royals, baseball, the Philadelphia 76ers, basketball, and eventually signed a contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFL. So you talk about some elite athletes. These guys were incredible. And as I said, they're great people, and it's really good to have all you guys with us today, and we look forward to the program. Last season, our club took a significant step forward in our programming when we added Kevin Skarbinski as our MC. I think you'd all agree with me. Kevin loves basketball just like the rest of us. He's a brilliant sports writer. You may not agree with his opinion always, but you can't deny the talent of Kevin Skarbinski. And since we last met, Kevin was named to the United States Basketball Writers Association Hall of Fame. So let's give him a big hand. I think it's safe to say that he's the only Alabamian in that group of basketball writers in the Hall of Fame. But Kevin, if you'd come on forward and we'll get started with our program.
Thank you, Dick. That was a tremendous weekend for me at the Final Four last year to receive that award. Of course, I was the first Alabamian, first sports writer from Alabama to be inducted into the United States Basketball Writers Association Hall of Fame, and it's great to be a pioneer. Nothing like these gentlemen, but I sometimes wonder, though, if that's, being recognized as a basketball writer in Alabama, if that's a bit like being the world's tallest midget. That's a joke. Obviously, there have been a lot of great writers in this state that have covered basketball through the years. Although I do recall my former colleague at the Birmingham News, Clyde Bolton, once said, he complained that there was so much basketball in the Sunday paper. He said, I can dribble it down my driveway. I like to think that I had something to do with that. We are going to, we're going to take, obviously, a tremendous trip down memory lane talking to these gentlemen shortly. So I thought, in the interest of equal time, and also to share a little history with you, we talk a little Auburn basketball, since the Tigers had a very large victory on Saturday over Indiana. Scored over 100 points. And it was just the second time in history that Auburn and Indiana had played in basketball. I happened to be there covering the first 1987 NCAA tournament. Now picture this, the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, Indiana. Standing room only, largest crowd in the building's history, more than 34,000 people, about 33,900 of them wearing red. Bob Knight was the coach. Steve Alford was the star of that team. It was the second round of the NCAA tournament. Auburn had a good basketball team, not a great basketball team. Chris Morris, Jeff Moore, Frank Ford, Gerald White, and one of the best pure scorers I have ever seen in Mike Jones. If you guys remember Mike. Well, that game started out, Sonny Smith was the Auburn coach. Couldn't have scripted it any better. They were up 24-10 on Indiana. Bob Knight calls a timeout. I was fortunate in that my seat on press row, and at the NCAA tournament, obviously there are a lot of media members there. My seat was right behind the Indiana bench. And during that timeout, with Indiana trailing Auburn 24-10, I got lessons in language and anger management that have stood with me to this day. Bob Knight got in the face of every single player, including Alford. And let's just say he invented four-letter words that I had never heard before and have never heard since. Steam was coming off of his head. His face was as red as his sweater. And he was livid. He was just ripping everyone to shreds. Then he turned his ire on the officials. After the timeout, I think the next 8 whistles went against Auburn, shockingly, and Indiana went on to win the game 107-90. The 90 points Auburn scored, the second highest total anybody had scored on that Indiana team all year. UNLV in the Final Four would lose to Indiana 97-93. So Auburn still was number 3 in terms of putting up points on that Bob Knight team. That went on and won the national championship. But after the game, one of the incidents during the game, mild Sonny Smith and Bob Knight went nose to nose. Almost came to blows. That's how heated that game was. It was a physical game. Auburn was not intimidated in the least. And you guys remember Gerald White, the point guard for Auburn. Rather stout. Never back, as was Frank Ford, his running mate in the backcourt. Never back down from anybody. Auburn had a free throw line huddle. Steve Alford leans into the huddle to try to listen. Gerald White notices him and gives him a two-hand shove right in the chest. Now, in the state of Indiana at that time, Bob Knight was akin to, I don't know, God, and Steve Alford was Jesus Christ to those people. So when Gerald White shoved Steve Alford, 33,950 people all went absolutely berserk, came down on him. And after the game, someone asked Bob Knight if he thought Gerald White was trying to intimidate Steve Alford. And as only Bob Knight could or would, I don't endorse this comment, but he said it. I was there when he said it. I listened to it. I wrote it down, included it in my story. He said, Gerald White trying to intimidate Steve Alford is like a sparrow trying to rape an elephant. Classy, huh? Very, very classy. Yeah. May you rest in peace, Coach Knight. Of course, we lost him in the last year, and it was interesting to see the reaction of people, the different reactions of people. Obviously, many, many people loved him, many players loved him. That was not a universal sentiment. I will say, though, that same year, Auburn played UNLV, one of my favorite experiences. UNLV came to Auburn, one of the greatest basketball weekends in Auburn history. On Saturday, Auburn plays an SEC game against Florida. On Sunday, Auburn plays a non-conference game in Beard East Memorial Coliseum against the UNLV Running Rebels, coached by Jerry Tarkanian. Freddie Banks was their big scorer, shooting guard. And I was staying in Auburn, as I often did as the beat writer for the Birmingham News. And I wanted to do an advanced story. I wanted to talk to Freddie Banks, the star player from UNLV. So I called the SID. And things were a little different then in the media relations world. And they were certainly different at UNLV. I called the SID and I said, hey, I'd love to talk to Freddie Banks. He said, well, he's in room such and such. Just go knock on his door. I don't think an SID had ever said it to me before or has said it to me since in trying to arrange a player interview. So I thought, that's great. So I go and knock on his door. It was, 8:30 on a Saturday morning. He and his roommate were in there watching cartoons. And we had a great conversation, and Freddie Banks was a great player. And again, they got to the Final Four, lost to Indiana in the semifinals. But on Friday night, the greatest experience of the weekend was Friday night. What was the old, help me out, Auburn folks, it was an Italian restaurant in Auburn, Opelika, back in the Dinero's. Does that sound right? I'm not sure. My memory fades a little bit with age. But I went to dinner with the UNLV entourage, and it was an entourage. In fact, they didn't request, they demanded 20 seats behind their bench for the Auburn game, for all of Tark's running buddies and high rollers. And let me tell you, going to dinner with that bunch at an Italian restaurant, it was a scene straight out of The Sopranos. Decorum prevents me from sharing any of the really good stories that were shared at the table that night. Those are just some favorite memories of mine from the history of basketball. Like I said, we're going to talk about much more important history shortly with these gentlemen, and I'm so pleased that all of you are here. Pleased to get to share those memories with you. So we're going to continue with our program. We want to make sure we keep plenty of time for these guys. So before we do, though, let's go to the highlights this year provided by Sheldon Haygood from Fox 6.
Birmingham Tip-Off Club, I'm back! And how about this? Yes, the basketball landscape in our state has and continues to change as play on the hardwood has really been elevated with the talent and the recruiting of both Nate Oates and Bruce Pearl. So let's go on ahead and see where all the teams are standing. Let's start off with Auburn over in Atlanta playing Indiana in the Holiday Hoops Giving this past weekend. The Tigers hit a season-high 14 three-pointers. Aiden Holloway with 24 points. Auburn wins big, 104-76.
Trying to get you guys to play hard for every possession. Do you think he's lost his mind, or do you think there's something to that?
I think it's a little bit both. But he loves us. He wants us to play hard. Even when we're playing hard, we always play harder.
With the victory, the Tigers improved to 6-2, play up in Huntsville next against UNC Asheville. Alabama taking on top 5 ranked Purdue, and the Crimson Tide make a game of it as Mark Sears leads Bama with a career-high 35 points. But it's not enough. The Boilermakers win a hard-fought 92-86 game that was played up in Toronto.
I thought our kids fought, they battled. For the most part, we executed the game plan. It was just a little bit too many errors, and we got to step up to the free throw line and make some free throws.
Bama slips to 6-3 and plays 10th ranked Creighton next, and then number 1, Arizona. UAB played on the road this past weekend against Arkansas State. Started well for the Blazers, but in the end, Andy Kennedy's bunch falls 87-68. UAB slides to 4-5 on the season. The Sanford men last time out was on fire, scoring 128 points in a 46-point victory over LaGrange. Bucky McMillan's bunch had 15 of 16 guys scoring that game. The Bulldogs are now 8-2. Jacksonville State University lost last Friday to Illinois Chicago 55-49. The Gamecocks fall to 4-6 on the season. Birmingham Southern is 4-4. These highlights here are from an earlier game against Piedmont. BSC lost that one in OT, 91-83. Let's go around the SEC. Early surprise is Ole Miss. The Rebels are the only undefeated team in the conference, now 9-0 after beating Central Florida yesterday, 70-68. Former Bama standout Javon Quinterly transferred to Memphis, and the 25-year-old is playing on a high level. Scored 24 points this past weekend to lead Memphis past Texas A&M 81-75. Missouri was on the road in Kansas at the Allen Fieldhouse. Tough place to win, and Mizzou goes down 73-64. The Jayhawks were led by K.J. Adams Jr.'s 17 points. Kentucky played Penn Saturday, and the Wildcats get 17 points from Aaron Bradshaw. 81-66 is the victory. Kentucky improves to 7-2. Tennessee played host Illinois out of the Big Ten. Vols get the solid victory, 86-79. UT is now 6-3. Mississippi State goes over the century mark against Tulane, winning 106-76. Josh Hubbard put up 22 points in the win for State. Eric Musselman gets tossed as Arkansas loses to Oklahoma 79-70. The Hogs never led in this one in the loss to the Sooners. Arkansas drops to 6-4 on the season. B.J. Mack hit a late three to give South Carolina the lead against East Carolina, and the Gamecocks hold on to a 68-62 victory and has won 8 of 9. Why not some women's hoops? Over the weekend, Bama handles Sanford 69-63 as the Tide jump up to 10-2. Auburn hit the road and played Arkansas Little Rock. Savannah Scott hit for 11 in the win for the Tigers, 58-45, who are now 7-2. So you're asking, who are the number 1 teams? For the men's side, it's Arizona. The Wildcats slam Wisconsin 98-73 this weekend. Arizona is now 8-0. For the ladies, South Carolina is undefeated at 9-0 after taking down Utah 78-69. One headline to mention, LeBron James' oldest son, Bronny, made his collegiate debut. His first game since suffering cardiac arrest. In 17 minutes, Bronny recorded 4 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals for the Southern Cal Trojans. And for our special guest today, 50 years ago this month, Alabama started 5 African-American players, all from our state: Charles Cleveland, Leon Douglas, T.R. Dunn, Raymond Odums, and Charles Boonie Russell. Not only was this a first for the state, but it never before had happened in the Southeastern Conference. They were trailblazers, both on the court and off. As you can see, gotta love the threads from the early 1970s, by the way. You know, and in 50 years, in 2073, they'll be saying the same thing about the way that we dress today in 2023. So glad to be bringing you back some of the hoop highlights each and every Monday, and I'll see you in early 2024 with more action on the hardwood.
You guys still own any bell bottoms? Boonie, you sure? Maybe so. Hey, I have to give credit. I'm not sure who said this. It wasn't my idea. I wish I'd come up with it. It may have been Brian Passink, who has a little bit of an edge to him as the analyst on the Alabama radio broadcast. That Alabama-Purdue game, I think it was Brian who said, Hey, I have an idea for a new rule for basketball. What if we didn't allow people who are 7'4" to stand in the lane for interminable lengths? What if we put a limit on that? Maybe we set it at, I don't know, 3 seconds. Anybody in favor of that? And speaking of Purdue and Zach Edey, where are my Sanford folks? I see you back there, Martin Newton. Kudos to Sanford. Sanford opened at Purdue. And if you guys missed that, the tip heard round the world. Dallas Graziani, 5'7", 8, 6, 4. The social media campaign that Sanford put together to talk about Dallas, and he did take the opening tip against Purdue. But there was a method to Bucky McMillan's madness. Obviously, he didn't try to jump, even though throughout the series, they were trying to stretch him. They had him hanging from bars. They did all kinds of fun stuff. But Bucky set up a play where as soon as that ball was tipped, Sanford ran to the ball, double-teamed, almost got a steal or a backcourt violation. So they almost pulled it off. But the goodwill that Sanford earned by hyping that, not just the game, but that tip heard around the world, was pretty special. Also special here in basketball in the state of Alabama, we are fortunate to have a really quality G League franchise, the Birmingham Squadron, that could not be led by a better person. Leslie Claybrook, come up and give us a Squadron update.
Thanks, Kevin, for that. It's great to be back with you guys. Year 3 for the Birmingham Squadron. And as you may know, we're affiliated with the New Orleans Pelicans, who are off to a good season. Had a tough showing in the semifinals of the in-season tournament, but excited about their progress as well as ours. We got off to a 3-0 start, struggled a little bit on the road, and we're currently sitting at 5-6. We are in the first half of our 2 seasons, if you will, the showcase season for us. 14 games, and then we'll play a tournament down in Orlando next week. So we're 3 games out from participating in the Cup portion of that, which is our own in-season tournament, if you will. So hopeful that we'll get into the mix there and be able to play for a championship in the first half of the season. We do have a game tonight, if you guys are interested, 7 p.m. We have special visitors coming. Mr. and Mrs. Claus are taking a break from their North Pole duties to come and be a part of the action. You can get your picture made with them. You can bring your teddy bear or plush toy and have a warm-up on tossing to the court. And we'd love to have you out for that as well. So we've got our action coming back January the 5th with 17 remaining home games. Each of those will be themed, highlighted by a special Martin Luther King weekend celebration for us, honoring legends here in Birmingham who've made a difference and impact in the community, as well as a holiday tournament for area high school teams who will participate on that Monday. So we'd love to have you guys out for that weekend. I think Dick Coffey's got some plans lined up and putting together a special ticket package for you guys. Just a couple of highlights of our players quickly. Malcolm Hill is in his 3rd season with us and really doing well. Has had 2 back-to-back 30-game plus games and is in the running for Player of the Week for the G League this week. Our very own Trey Jemison, who played high school at Hoover and for UAB, is off to a great start. And man, is he a fantastic shot blocker. Got work a little bit on his timing. He is currently leading the league, not in block shots, but in goaltending. So anybody have any tips? You guys have any tips for his timing on that? Would be great. But he's certainly getting up there to make a difference for us in the paint and with block shots. And Devin Kennedy is another player for us new to our roster this year, who was the South Bay Lakers MVP in the G League a couple of years ago, joined our roster this season. Recently competed on the Team USA 3x3 team in Puerto Rico. The best stat about Devin is who he married, Katie Lou Samuelson, who played at UConn, who was also on Team USA's 3x3 team, who participated in Puerto Rico too, and she brought home the gold medal. Devin not so successful in that area, so at least they got a gold medal there, but super proud of our team this year. Great men on and off the court, so hopefully you guys will come out and see them. Gentlemen, we are a little thin on the bench tonight, so if you guys would like to suit up, we certainly could use your talents. But we'll have a great game tonight, hopefully, and that'll lead us into the showcase next week and then back on January 5th. So thank you, guys.
Tiger game, you are missing out. I highly encourage you to get down to Legacy Arena. All right, gentlemen. Leon? Boonie? Not Charles. I asked him if he preferred Charles or Boonie. He said, who's Charles? Let's make our way to the stage. Are we on? Are we all set up, Dick? Anybody hearing me through the microphone? Or are you just hearing my normally loud voice? Which I almost lost Wednesday night during the 7A championship game. I'm sure a lot of people would have been thrilled had I done so. All right, guys. Okay, as they're getting set up, I got a couple of trivia questions for you. I don't think we have any prizes for the winner, but we're talking about the 1973-1974 season. Unfortunately, because of the size of the NCAA tournament at the time and the fact that only one team from a conference could go to the NCAA tournament, and these guys lost two heartbreakers to Vanderbilt, they did not get to play in the NCAA tournament. They were clearly one of the better teams in the country. Who won the 1973-74 national championship? Say it. NC State. David Thompson, Monty Tao at point guard. Tom Burleson at center. Did you guys ever play those guys? No. I got a thrill of a lifetime for me. Got to meet Monty Tao. He's coaching in Gainesville at a private high school, and my sons go to college there, so got to meet him a couple of years ago, and it was nice to be taller than someone in the basketball world. He and David Thompson they say they kind of invented the alley-oop. Do you guys have any comment on that?
Well, David was jumping high, so probably did.
Probably so. Probably so. Okay, let's ask a trivia question closer to home. Now, you guys should know the answer. You may not. Maybe time has faded your memory. Who was the leading scorer on the 1973-74 Alabama basketball team? And again, all right, we had Raymond Odums, incredible athlete. We had Boonie Russell, powerhouse in the paint. We had Leon Douglas. We had T.R. Dunn. We had Charles Cleveland. We had Johnny Dill. Who was the leading scorer on that team? Do you guys remember?
Cleveland, probably.
Cleveland.
Cleveland. You agree with that, Boonie?
I agree.
It was Charles Cleveland. 17.1 points a game. But all three of these guys also averaged in double figures for that team, which, I don't know if we mentioned it, you guys went 22-4, 15-3 in the SEC. What is your number one memory of that season? Right.
My number one memory is losing to Vanderbilt twice. I thought we had a better team, and we played them tough, but every time we went up, something happened. So, you know, they was a scrappy team. We had more talent, but they won the game.
Boonie?
Well, I remember Vanderbilt, they invented the offensive foul. I'm like, man, how can you play against this team? If you get a rebound, you couldn't run. You couldn't run on the fast break, you know, because if you cut out running on the fast break, somebody's standing up behind you and they're always falling. I'm like, man, I never seen so many players fall before in my life, you know.
They didn't have a flopping rule back then, did they?
No, it was just fall.
Yeah.
It was just fall, you know, all the time. So we had to kind of tone it down. We couldn't get off into our transition game, you know, because we had to start being aware, you know, wherever they're at. You know, if it was under the goal, half court, you know, rebound, anywhere, you know, they set up for offensive foul, you know. So it kind of slowed us down a little bit.
Leon, what's your favorite memory or just your number one memory of that season?
It's on a personal note. I remember one day after practice, we was all under the basket, and you remember that day Coach Newton came down and said that we were going to go inside now.
because it wasn't happening on the outside. And that's when I started with balls. They started inside.
Hey, that's what
like
they
that
did.
memory.
We played inside game when I was there.
Yeah.
Wasn't much outside. He shot me that. He getting the ball.
I remember we had two plays. The first play was get the ball in to Leon, and the second play was get the ball in to Leon. But evidently it worked because we won 2 back-to-back SEC championships. So it was a good idea.
It was a good plan.
It was a
And
good
we
plan.
should point out, C.M. Newton, of course, longtime friend of this club, basketball legend. He's no longer with us. His son, Martin, now the athletics director at Sanford, is with us. Martin, say hello. Guys, give us a snapshot memory of Coach Newton, right?
Well, Coach Newton was a really easygoing type of guy, but he demanded you do your job. And, he was a real likable guy. I remember when they was recruiting me, they came to my high school. I was playing football. They came to a football game. They came to a basketball game, him and Coach Sanderson. And I really got interested in playing at Bama because during first integration, my high school played in the first integrated state tournament in 1969, and we lost. But, we had some guys make it all-star, and I was fortunate. I was the most valuable player in the losing cause. But we played and played well, and after that, they recruited Wonder, and they came recruiting me, and so it really made me think that, hey, they wanted to have basketball down in Alabama. They was pushing it, and they were doing everything they could to get the best ball players in the state of Alabama. And that's why we started improving year after year and getting to be a good team.
Boonie, what do you remember about Coach Newton?
That he was a great person and he was a great coach. I remember those two things about him. And I also remember one day he told me, he said, well, Boonie, you are so quick. Said, we're going to make you out of one of the best defensive players in the SEC. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I didn't like that idea. But it came to pass, so,
He didn't mention that. He didn't mention that idea during recruiting, did he?
No. I had scored so many points then, so he wasn't worried about that. But he kind of changed that a little bit. But yeah, I remember he was a wonderful person.
Leon, there's an iconic photo of you and Coach Newton that many of us have seen through the years. What are your memories of seeing him?
Well, first and foremost, he was a gentleman, and he was someone that you could trust. And see, it was very important to me to be able to trust whoever was coaching me because, a lot of guys give you whatever you need in order to get you there. And he and I, we sit down and we had a heart-to-heart about my coming to Alabama. And one thing he told me was, he said, if you come and you're very productive, we will not recruit against you. And so a lot of times you go into a situation, and the minute you get there, the next year another center will arrive, the next year another center. And he held his word because, I did my job, and he brought Reggie in my last year.
Reggie King.
Reggie King, and we were roommates, so, he was a gentleman, but more than anything, he held his word. But I had one problem with him, and that was whenever he had Martin, you remember that Buckeye? Okay, his father had a Buckeye.
Tell everyone what a Buckeye is for those who don't know.
That's it's like a
Nut, right?
a nut from Ohio, I think.
Yes.
Interesting. Nut
Yeah,
from
Ohio State.
But whenever he would reach in his pocket and start fumbling around, I would always watch him. And whenever the Buckeye came out, I knew he was in trouble. Because, he would sit there and just, rub on that Buckeye. And I guess he was trying to come up with ideas in order to get us out of whatever situation we was in. But, I truly admired him as a man. And see, that's really the most important thing I can say about him. I think the guys can too, is that He was a decent man, and he was not a Bobby Knight, he was not a rah-rah, and whatever he said, it was golden. You know, he always kept his word, and he always had people around him that would keep their word. And I recall when I was a freshman, all the coaches, whenever you remember this, when we would go on the road, we would all get together in a card room. And we would play cards together and, you know, fraternize. And I think this was their way of making us feel welcome, because we would do this. We did this, I think, half of the season. We would all get together and just socialize whenever we would go on the road. So, you know, he did a lot, not only for me, but for the other guys as far as making us welcome and also creating a family, not a team, but a family atmosphere.
Now, tell us about the recruiting process. Obviously, times were changing. Wendell Hudson, of course, had paved the way. Raymond, I guess you came next.
Yeah, I was second.
Now, tell everyone where you played high school and what the recruiting process was like. Were you reluctant to go to Alabama because of the history, or did you want to stay at home and change that history?
Well, I kind of wanted to stay home because I wanted my family to see me play.
And where did you play high school? Tell everyone.
Birmingham, but 50, 60 miles away from Tuscaloosa. So, and also, I was interested in playing in a good atmosphere, quality event, and play hard. You know, I like Boonie said, I went there as a scorer, averaging 27 points a game. But my freshman year, I scored. My sophomore year, the whole offense changed. You know, Coach Newton wanted the inside game. So, you know, I changed my game to be a point guard. So my sophomore year, I led the SEC in assists. But
But you were passing to me,
though. Yeah. I got a few more points. I got a few more shots, too, as he went along, too. You know, when more guys came up, you kind of shared the ball. But the recruiting was after my junior year, and when we played in Tuscaloosa, we played Parker. Wonder was on the Parker team, and they beat us in the championship game. So after that, I think I was #1 man on the recruiting list. So Coach Newton, Coach Sanders, and Coach Bob, and one of the main guys, he's passed away, was named Frank Rumo. Frank was there with all of us, and I mean, they was coming to the games and leading the game, and after the game, you know, I had to walk home, but hey, I never had to walk after that. Frank would drive me home, they picked me up and everything, so they recruited, and like Leon said, they told me straight. So they wanted me, they would do everything to take care of me and treat me right. So when I went to Bama, I enjoyed myself, they treated me right. We had one thing about being down. First integration group, we never have any racial incidents. That's one of the things I always remember. I guess Coach Newton and Coach Brian told them, hey, we have any of that mess, you out of here. So we never had any racial incidents. You know, we integrated. When my freshman year, I lived with a guy named Dale Dunn, and so they kind of mixed us up. Basketball was the only other player in the state in Bryan Hall. Football and basketball stayed there. Yeah. And everything. One good thing, when we ate, we had 4 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, and late night snack.
Oh, yeah.
You got to appreciate that.
And they treated me fair.
Yes.
No problem.
And you guys have mentioned, and we should certainly note, Wim Sanderson, of course, was an assistant coach on that staff.
Yeah, Coach Sanderson.
Known as a terrific recruiter.
Yeah.
Recruited all of you guys, obviously, along with Coach Newton.
Yeah.
Boonie, what are your memories of being recruited, and why did you make the decision to go to Alabama?
Well, first of all, out of high school, I went to Alabama Christian in Montgomery. And I remember the Alabama Christian coach, he came to recruit me, and he pulled up in a 67 station wagon brown with a big Alabama Christian eagle on the side of it. And I was like, no, man, I'm not finna go there. I was like, no, you got the wrong one. I'm not finna go there. So I go back in my room and hide. My mom come in and say, it's a guy here want to see you. Come on out. And I go out there, and it was the coach of Alabama Christian. I had no intention of going to Alabama Christian, but I ended up going to Alabama Christian and became in the top 5 players, junior college players in the United States out of Alabama Christian. And we was playing Selma University, and Coach Sanders was at the game, you know, and he talked to me, trying to convince me to come to Alabama, and he was telling me the players, the guys, you know, we got Leon. I said, I know Leon, I know him well. I said, I know him well. I said, I beat him in the state tournament. So now I get a chance to go and play with Leon Douglas and the guys I heard about, Raymond Odums and T.R. Dunn. So I was like, they said, well, we're looking for a player that could come right in and start. So they thought I could come in and start. So it was history.
Leon, I did a story about 10 years ago on the 40th anniversary of the First Five. And I remember talking to you for that story. And you shared an incredible anecdote with me. While you were being recruited, you got a recruiting letter from an interesting individual in this state's history. Tell everyone about that.
Well, back then, there was no telegram. They called them mailogram. And I remember one day, a mailogram showed up. And my mom, she came in, she beckoned for me to come and sit down, and she showed me the mailogram. It was from George Wallace.
Yes, George Wallace, governor, well known for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, it was from George.
What was your reaction when you got?
When we looked at it, we started laughing. We said, no way. You know, see, he almost caused me not to go to Alabama, because when I got there, you know, he was creating a lot of problems within the state. But see, interesting enough is that I went to Bill Baxley's birthday party when I was a junior, and I donated a basketball to Bill. And Wallace was at the party. And so when I entered, it was the Alabama boat, whatever the boat is they have in the dock. And when I entered the boat, I saw Wallace. And so he told me to come over, so I went over and we talked. And I asked him, I said, can we talk? And we did. We talked for about 30 minutes. We went in a private room in the back. And I wanted to know about his policies, why he did what he did, and, you know, and created all the problems for my race. And he told me very plainly, he said, I'm a politician, and I do whatever I need to do in order to get elected. He said, some of my closest friends are black men, but if I come out pro-black, then I'm not your governor. So I did what I need to do as a politician to become governor. And so really, you know, that cleared a lot of things up for me, because here's a man that spent his life on one platform, stood in the door, but yet and still he's sitting there telling me that it was all because of a cause, because he wanted to remain governor. And when I left out of, we sort of became cordial. You know, whenever I was saying, he would, you know, wave and I would wave. But he showed me exactly what a politician is. You know, no, seriously, someone that'll do whatever it takes
Playing the game.
to get in office.
Put in the game.
But see, I'm still waiting on my NLI money.
Amen.
That's why I think we all wait on NLI.
Imagine what these guys could have commanded in NIL money if that were in play back then.
Because it was like $25 a month to wash your clothes. 15 and a movie pass.
I mean, the little per diem we got. That little
What was your per diem?
Oh, what,
$15
$15, $20, what, 15, little? Yeah, I know.
We waited on that $15. You know, it's like football and basketball. There was a mail room. And the day that $15 would arrive, everybody would be in the mail room to get that $15, you know. But the whole thing is, I was going to Alabama when I was in the 9th grade. I took a visit, and I went down in the tunnel right in front of the training room, the equipment room, and I just had a feeling that, you know, this was home. And so I played the game, took my trips, and took a loss, because there was a lot of suitcases that I think about today.
From recruiters from other schools, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Samsonite had my name on it.
Yeah.
But,
Amen, yeah.
but, you know, I understood one thing as a young man, that in life you got to be loyal to a cause. And you got to be loyal to a group of people. And see, I knew I was an Alabamian, and I knew I planned to live in Alabama. So why go against my people and go elsewhere? So I decided I'll stay here, and I'll make this my home. And I've coached basketball for 17 years, but I only coach in Alabama.
It's home. Now, let's flash back to December of 1973, 50 years ago this month. You guys are playing in a holiday tournament in Louisville. And interestingly, records were not kept then the way they are now. And in fact, Kirk McNair, who you all know, longtime historian of Alabama athletics, worked in the Alabama Sports Information Department at the time, told me in a lot of the box scores back then, they didn't even list who the starters were. But the best evidence we have is that on December 28th, 1973, against Louisville, Alabama started 5 young black men. That had never happened at the University of Alabama. It had never happened in the Southeastern Conference. Were you guys aware at the time? First of all, when did you know, and TR, I guess, he was a freshman that year, so he became the 5th guy with Charles Cleveland, of course. So you guys were already starting. And then TR, I guess, became the 5th. I know Johnny had started games that year, Johnny Dill, and I mean, you guys had a really good team, obviously. When did it hit you, did it hit you that, or was it just a basketball game? Right.
Well, it never hit me, because, you know, we was all athletes, and we was like good ball players. We wanted to win. And Coach Newton wanted to win. So in that case, we put the best 5 we had out there in a starting group. Although we was all pretty good sharing the ball and everything, but it never hit me that we was the first 5 blacks to play. We were just a starting 5 that's out there to do a job.
Boonie, what's your recollection?
I feel the same way, you know, it never did hit me, you know, and it was like 5 of my brothers and all 5 of us was from Alabama, and we was, wherever we went to play, you know, we was Alabama, you know. We was from the University of Alabama, from Alabama, so it never did really hit me at first, you know, until it went viral.
Right. Leon, what about for you?
Who did he replace?
Johnny were you starting in that line? I think it was Johnny. I think Johnny Dill was starting, and then TR moved into, is that correct, Johnny? Your memory?
So you lost out. No, but
6 man.
Yeah, the 6th man of the year.
6 man of the year.
Yeah.
No, but Coach Newton, he had an uncanny way of doing things. You know, it's like he wouldn't start guys when you knew deep down you deserved to start. You know, he had this policy that you had to wait and grow into it. And I never agreed with that. You know, I never agreed with the wait and growing into it. You know, he told me that. He said, because when I was a freshman, I didn't start the first 4 games, but I played 30-plus minutes. And I would ask him, I said, what's coach? Come on. I said, what's up? I said, I can't start? Okay. So I'll tell y'all something. It's real interesting, and nobody's ever heard this. My 4th game, I packed my car. Everything I owned was in the Chevelle.
Okay.
And if he had not started me that fourth game, I was going to Washington State. I'm honest, seriously, because I'm playing 30-plus minutes, but you won't start me, and I'm wearing the guys out in practice, but I have to start the game looking at other people. Then you call me Bigger. That's his name, you call me Bigger. Come on out, okay. And I said, after that fourth game, I don't know who we were playing. You guys never knew that.
No.
I was packed. You guys remember Coach Scoggins? Okay, Coach Scoggins did not like Alabama. And he would always, he recruited me more than Alabama did to go elsewhere. And he would always call me because George Rablin, who ended up being a great friend of mine, was the coach at Washington State. And he and George was talking, they was calling, see, the man ain't gonna start you, see, you shouldn't have went there. And so, I was sort of, I don't guess I was brainwashed, but I was to the point that I wanted to start. And, with him telling me, wait, I said, no, I want to start. And so that fourth game, Scoggins had my plane ticket. No, seriously, it was coordinated. He had my plane ticket. I was to drive to Birmingham. Someone else was going to drive my car out to Pullman, Spokane, or wherever, Pullman,
Yes.
Washington. And I was going to start new in Washington. But that particular name, they said, Leon Douglas starting at center. I said, okay. I said, that's over.
Now, did you tell Coach Newton that your car was packed and you were ready to go?
No one knew except Scoggins and I. Coach Scoggins, he knew.
Willie Scoggins, of course, legendary
He knew.
Birmingham high school coach.
He knew because he had the ticket, and he was going to make sure my vehicle got to Spokane. Pullman. And, the more I thought about it, that was a crazy decision, but yet and still, when you're a young man, 17, I was 18 years old when I went to Alabama. 17 when I first went, then I became 18 when I was there. When you're that young, you don't think about things that are real. You just, you formulate opinions. And see, I had my opinion that you had to start in order to be a complete basketball player. T.R. should have started when T.R. got there, because, I played against him in high school. T.R. was a man. He was not a boy. He was a man. He was well-built, and, and his mindset was so different from a freshman coming in that he was quiet. He always thought things out. And we used to talk a lot. I called him, his nickname, the nickname I gave him was Snake.
Snake?
Snake.
Why?
I said, boy, you're sneaky. I said, you say one thing, but yet and still, he was a man when he came there. And I think the guys will tell you that and when it was time to do his job, he did his job. He did his job in practice. He did his job on the court. And whenever you need to just sit down and talk, you could sit down and talk to T.R. Because when T came, I think he was already married. I think he got married his senior year. So the maturity was already there as a man. And so, I was always telling him, I said, man, just hang in there. Because I thought about what I went through, and I didn't want him to start thinking the way I thought, he might one day wake up and say, I'm out of here.
Yeah, you didn't want him getting on a plane for Washington State, did you?
Well, hey, we would be remiss, and thank you, Ray Cleveland is here. Charles Cleveland, sadly, is no longer with us. Obviously, he was
Can I say
an integral
something?
part. Yes, you
Can
can.
I say something?
Of course you can.
Why did it take 50 years?
Why did what take 50 years?
This.
Honor this group.
This. This happened during a period of time that was crazy. And this could have been a common factor had they done this during that time frame. 5 blacks, Birmingham, Hassel, Leiden, Birmingham, Brent.
Well,
Johnny Deal, Leroy Russell. You know, the team was Alabama.
Yeah.
It was not a bunch of immigrants. No, you know, I'm not saying that in a negative sense, but now when you look at Alabama, you don't see Alabama. You see guys that are really capitalizing on a moment, and that's a financial moment.
I think it was only three that was out of state.
They was all
on the entire roster?
They was from Indiana.
Dale Dunn, Mark, Tom Schellenberg,
Indiana.
and it was one more.
Greg Freeman.
Greg Freeman.
Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana. 4.
You know, so now you look at it, everybody's showing up to cash in. But see, we was cashing in from the standpoint that we wanted to make a difference within the state, and we wanted to do something different that other people wasn't doing. Because we are family.
And we should note, Leon, that team, you started a run of 3 straight SEC championships
Yeah.
at the University of Alabama. 73, 74, 74, 75, 75, 76. And you guys were the heart of that. Charles Cleveland was a big part of that.
Very big part.
No doubt.
Share a Charles Cleveland memory, right?
Did it pass to you?
Yeah. Well, Charles was a hard-working guy, and he had a funny little dribble, but every time he was strong, so he'd take it in the hole. Back in the day, he was shooting, before we hit 3-point, he was shooting outside that range. But, we kind of toned him down and everything he passed. But a bunch of times, I would say Charles was an excellent player, but, he kind of liked the flash, right? So a lot of time, when you wasn't right there behind the back pass, you didn't get it. So he had to flash, but he could play, and he played hard and gave 100%, like Leon and Charles, T.R., Johnny, all the guys. We was there for one reason, and that's to win basketball games.
Well, the fact that he was the leading scorer with the talent that you guys all had on that team tells you a lot. Boonie, what do you remember about Charles?
Well, I remember the name Charles Cleveland when I was in high school. So we go to the state tournament, and I heard about Charles Cleveland. Charles Cleveland. I said, who is Charles Cleveland? Playing in a game, he come across half court, and time he crossed half court, he just jump up with ease and just shoot a jump shot. A 6'5" guard, All the other centers except for Leon was like 6'2", 6'3". He was 6'5" guard with unlimited range. I'm like, that's Charles Cleveland? Yeah, that's Charles Cleveland. Yeah, and he was an excellent person, a good friend of mine. We always good friends, excellent person, hard worker. And when he came out of college, he had the misfortune or the bad luck. He got drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers. If he had went to any other team, he would have had a long career in the NBA. But he got drafted and it went to Philadelphia, and it was they had to make a decision between Charles Cleveland and World B. Free, Lloyd Free. They had to make a decision between one of the two. And they chose Lloyd B. Free ahead of Charles Cleveland. But he was a baller. He was a baller.
He could have been very successful at that level.
Yeah.
No doubt in your mind.
Anywhere except for Philadelphia.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Sixers back then were not the Sixers of Julius Erving and Moses Malone.
No.
Let's just say that.
Right.
Now listen, we could talk ball all day long, but we want to give you guys a chance to ask some questions of these pioneers. So, anybody have any thoughts? Yes, sir.
Back during that time, seems to me like I recall that the reason given for Allen Murphy, who was a partner and who was a great scholar. I'm sure y'all know that name.
Yeah.
Said he went to Louisville because he was afraid that Alabama would never start 5 African Americans. Was that just a figment of my imagination? But I recall that
Alan Murphy, great player from Birmingham.
Played against him at
Did you guys hear that? Did you guys hear that in recruiting? Alabama will not start all
No,
of you.
that was,
All
that
you
was
guys.
true. That's why he went.
Yeah, he played at Louisville. We played
Yes.
him there at Freedom Hall. Hank. So he used to call him Hank. Alan
He
Murphy.
was a great player.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys heard that from other schools?
No, well,
Don't go to Alabama, they're not going to start
let's see,
five black guys.
Louisville, that was Louisville recruiting ploy. Because they tried the same ploy that got him, they tried it on me. And that's one reason why he went to Louisville, because of the briefcase and the fact that, no, I'm being honest, the briefcase.
Another Samsonite?
Oh, cut several, you know. And the fact that Alabama would not start 5 blacks. And that particular night, you know, you could really see the pain in his face, because here we are playing against you, beating you, and you could have been a part of this, you know.
So you think he regretted that?
Well, I cannot say that, but I'm sure that crosses his mind, that he missed a golden opportunity, because had he came, oh my God, you know, it would have been awesome.
Yeah.
It would have been awesome.
You wouldn't have lost those 2 games to Vanderbilt by 1 point and 2 points.
No, you know,
That year.
Charles Cleveland was our best player. Murphy come, we had 2. Okay, so that would have been, you know, I don't know, you know, we probably would have won a couple nationals.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm going to follow up with Leon and others of the gentleman, especially that gentleman and Charles loved the Alabama. Tried to get Alabama, and what y'all saying is true. I have pictures at the house. I have so much stuff in the house that I preserved. Got a Ray, Boonie, you know, London, and as you know, back then, we just wanted a chance. We didn't look at the color, but sometimes you losing ball players because you don't give a shot. Like, you know. So yes, you were right about Edmund Murphy. I knew it. I got pictures of him at home with Charles, Ray, Ernest. Right down. And
Okay.
with us when they tried to recruit.
Yeah.
Charles was playing high school ball. He was so good that he said, I got to finish this interview because I got to go see my friend play, Adam Murphy. They tried hard. Yeah. What about Adam Murphy? You got to understand back then, back in them days, I slept in the bed with my brother. I know everything. Trust me. I want you to think I'm just talking now. I was like reporting. I was low key, humble. Charles or something. He didn't say a word. Ray knew. Y'all know you get go along to get along. But he knew sport. He knew the court. He knew the players, the coaches. But he did what he had to do. He had to adjust. He had to give up some things like Ray did. He gave it up for the team. But what he got out of her? We won that championship. I'm gonna tell you straight up. Because it's time that people got to go against what's in Alabama to keep them here. Coach Newton and more than anybody else, Coach Bryant. I thank God for Coach Bryant, because he was the athletic director, and he got Coach Newton. He had his ways, Kentucky way, but he kept the ball players intact. And I'll tell you another story. Like this, a story behind Charles. Coach Newton, his coaching thing was on the line, and then he get Charles Lee. He had to keep him here in the state of Alabama. Let him get away. That was his first priority. When Ray and all them had to keep them too. Leon, you had the best talent, white and black. Johnny B. I'm gonna tell you what I know. Wayne Garrett, Allen House. I know the history of the game. Way when I was 4 years old. Learning. And all the things we had to go through to keep our manhood, what we had to go through in Alabama. But I thank God for Coach Bryant. So Coach Bryant got Newton, and Newton said, do I have any reason why I can't get him? Whatever you need to do, get him. He took a lot of slack, Coach Newton. Crosses and everything. Tell you now, Hurries, you had Charles Cleveland and Leon Dunn. But Alan Murphy should have been in there too. I'm gonna tell you straight up. So, some people use the philosophy words and all that stuff like that. I was humble, but I know sports. All three. Charles was good at all three. Period. Case closed. But he loved the state of Alabama. And one last thing I'm gonna say to y'all, be quiet, because I'm humble too. But some people need to know. They want to know why Charles Cleveland went to university. He had over 206 odd colleges, pros, basketball, everything. Cars, houses, want to ship us over here, buy houses, and illegal. Just simply go to school. That's like Leon said. You can go there, right? You know, get you. But no, you listen to Coach Newton, you listen to Coach Bradley, holding there today. All these big millionaires holding there to Coach Brown. I was up with Coach Brown in that ballroom, you don't know, trying to get convince me to get Charles to play football. I'm not telling you that, no. I ain't coming to my brother. 2 years apart, we talk about everything. But you have to say, don't keep our mouths shut. Because in Alabama, red state. You got to be careful what you say. Because you might make it home. So Coach Brown went up there. Boy,
All right. Yeah, he done had enough now. He taking up the program. Leon, be quiet now.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He went to spotlight.
When he started off, he did a good job. When he started off, he did a hell of a job, but he took it too far.
Charles Edward Cleveland was coming to the University of Alabama for a lot of reasons, just like Ray said. I'm looking for that too. But they don't understand the main reason Charles Edward Cleveland, there was all other people involved, but the main reason Charles Edward Cleveland went to the University of Alabama because my mother never seen us play basketball in high school. 31 miles away now. Instead of I cook for everybody, now she can come in a nice center seat, any ticket you want, eat, sit down and eat without having to go to the back, and all this stuff. People come to the Alabama. I'm just telling you the truth. There's a lot more stories behind it. I'm telling you. It's a way how you go through the journey. And you got to be able to bring the past with the present.
Yeah, call time out there.
If you don't do that, you're going to miss out good out.
I forgot I got to speak on. I forgot I got to speak.
You got parents, ain't parents. See, my mother like, man,
Come on, man, come on.
Ray, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I can second what Ray said. I was fortunate to know Coach Newton through the years. And he told me that Coach Bryant, in hiring him, and even after that, never once said, never put a quota, never said you have to have this many players of a certain color on your team. He said, you get the best players and you win. He said that was his mandate from the beginning, and it was his mandate throughout his tenure at Alabama. And Wim Sanderson will tell you the same thing. He was on that staff, obviously, as an assistant. John Clemens.
TR was a freshman with that team. When did Anthony Murray came in? I know he played with Leon.
Yeah, he came the year after I left.
Questions about Anthony Murray, who was, again, another great player.
Murray, 75. He came in as a point guard like me. He came in the next year, 75.
Great defensive.
Yeah, real good defensive player.
You know what's really ironic is that each year, the best player was destined to come to the University of Alabama. And that went on for years. You know, Eddie Carlson, you know, guys that were graduating, Ken Looney, you know, Chris Bradwell, but Tommy Barnes, whoever was in the elite class would come to Alabama because we had a brotherhood that we all recruited each other. you know, Coach Newton, you know, we'll say he recruited this, and that. No, we, no, seriously, am I right, guys?
Yeah, you're right.
Players recruit players.
Players recruit players. They would show up, and we would make sure that they were welcome, and we told them and showed them where they would fit in if they came and played with us. So it wasn't a deal that, you know, the coaches was recruiting, you know, the players recruited. And that's why we got the best player from, they didn't go to Auburn. Auburn could never get these guys. They got Barkley, you know, that's a blunder that Coach Sanderson did, because Barkley wanted to come to Alabama. You know, Whip chose the boy in California over Barkley. So the situation is, players back in the day wanted to play in Tuscaloosa.
Of course, the famous story on Charles Barkley is that Sonny Smith convinced his mom and his grandmother that if you drove over the mountain from Leeds, it was closer from Leeds to Auburn than it was Leeds to Tuscaloosa.
That's a Sonny tale.
That's a Sonny Smith tale, yes, absolutely. Any more questions? Coach Kennedy.
Call high school basketball back then when you played the golden age of basketball in the state of Alabama?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
we all agree on that.
Henry Harris, who was the
Yeah,
first
he went-
African-American to play at Auburn.
Yeah, he went to
And
Auburn.
Wimp Sanderson told me he tried so hard to recruit Henry. He said the problem was Auburn bought him more groceries than the A&P actually had. Bud Stallworth,
Yeah.
who went to Kansas.
My next door neighbor.
How good a player was he?
He was something serious. He tried to talk me into going to Kansas too. He said, "Hey, Boonie, if you go to Kansas, they're gonna play you as a shooting guard." I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Go to." I like that. And I went out to visit Kansas, out in Lawrence, Kansas, with Coach Ted Owens. He was the coach, but I ended up going to Alabama. I don't regret it. I think I made a good decision, had a good career there.
Well, first of all, we can't thank you guys enough for not only for being here today, but for what you did for this state to create opportunities for other young men like yourselves through the years. We are all, as basketball fans in the state of Alabama, we are all indebted to you. So I think I speak for everyone. We're not done yet, but I just want to say I think I speak for everyone in this room when I just say thank you. Thank you for what you did. And as we close, we want to get a final thought from each of you about that experience, about your place in history, because you are pioneers, you are trailblazers with what you did. You may not have thought about it at the time, but you did open doors. Ray?
Oh, for me, I think I made the right decision because as long as I've been gone from Alabama, they keep inviting me and my family back and letting me know they appreciate me. Because all these years, they come down to the game, show me around, bring me on the stage and introduce me. And I remember back my mom, like I said, my mom and dad could sit in the prime seats now. All our class, for all our parents would come to the game. Coach Newton had my parents right down front. And they didn't miss a beat. And they didn't have to have a ticket. The players had as many tickets they want for your family. So I'm really appreciated, and I'm coming back from time to time, and they let me know they appreciate what I did do when I was there. And I'm just thankful to be an Alabama basketball player.
But you still want to get in the Hall of Fame.
You know it. I would like to get in there.
Well, I could say, I think I could speak for the Tip-Off Club by saying you guys are welcome here any time that we have a meeting. You are welcome here. Boonie.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate the time that I was at University of Alabama because I had some excellent teammates, excellent coaches, fan body, and you all. Thank you.
Leon, we're going to give you the last word.
Grandpa.
But I still got one small thing that going through my mind is that Coach Newton would have loved to have been here. Coach Bostic, Charles, and a host of others that was a part of that era. It was special. It was special. But the timing, although it's always good to do something before the time is up, but yet and still, this should have been done a long time ago. And that's the only problem I have with today is that my friends, my coaches, didn't share it. But I am an Alabamian. I made the right choice. Didn't get on the plane.
And roll tide. Roll tide.
Raymond Odums, Boonie Russell, Leon Douglas, Ray Cleveland, T.R. Dunn, we wish he could have been here today. Thank you for what you did again for the University of Alabama, the state of Alabama, for opening doors for other young men. As Dick Coffey was reading some of the abhorrent, it's just hard to imagine, those Jim Crow laws.
Can I say one
Leon,
thing?
you turned to me and you said, we broke the law. We are damn glad you did.
Yeah, but where Bill at? Stand up. Martin, Newton, stand up. Dick Coffey, stand up. These guys, you know, I've known Martin since he was, you know, a baby, but these two guys was part of what was going on. His dad, in a wheelchair, was always there.
Always.
Support.
Dick Senior.
Dick Senior.
Yeah, always there.
Bill, you know, he didn't, you know, he wasn't a great manager, but, you know, but, you know, thank you guys for being a part of us.
Yeah.
You know, because it takes more than players in order to be successful. You got to have a support staff. You got to have people that support you. I remember you always being there. Yeah, John was always there. You know, and so when you look around and you see faces, reminiscing is easy because you see people that was a part of the trip. So I'm glad to be here, but those guys, they was there.
Well, thank you to everyone for being here. We have set the bar for this season at the Birmingham Tip-Off Club
Higher than any of you guys could have jumped over in your prime.
And thank you to Alabama Power for the speaker series. Like I said, this is just the start of a great season, and I've got chills
Just sitting here in your presence.
I want this young man right here to stand up.
Billy McGowan.
Come on up here. Come on up here. Come on up here. Come on up here. Tell him who you are.
Tell him who I am.
Tell him who you are.
I'm Billy McGowan Boonie, and I were big-time friends back in the day.
Yep.
And I probably was not the best influence.
Don't tell him yourself.
But y'all,
We can see that, Billy. Those of us who know you, we can see that.
that was my personal good friend, Billy. Yeah, great guy. I just wanted him to be recognized.
I'm glad you did, Boonie.
Good rejuvenation.
Yeah. Great friend of basketball, obviously, Billy McGowan, as is everyone in this room, though. Again, thank you so much for being here. I hope you will tell your friends. Let's fill this room every meeting this season of the Birmingham Tip-Off Club. Let's continue to build this. Let's continue to build this sport in this state, because we all stand on the shoulders of giants. We're lucky to have 3 of them here today. Thank you, everyone.